I'm Mike.
I'm Sam. Let's get into it.
A bad loss, but Browns are gonna get clapped next week, so it's all good. All right.
Welcome to episode 55 of the Mike and Sam Sports Show. We just came off a fun wild card weekend. I think my highlight was watching the Nickelodeon Bears Saints game with the slime in the end zone. But there's some fun games. The Ravens Titans was a great game, really intensifying that rivalry. I went 4 for 6 on the weekend, which is pretty solid. I think Michael was close to perfect. John maybe not so much, and Jack was also close to perfect. But without further ado, we'll get into our first game. We have the Packers versus the Rams. I'm gonna go with the Packers on this one. I just think they're way too good right now. They're playing their best football. Rodgers is just playing lights out. I think their defense is the most important part. Is really kind of coming together right now with Jair Alexander being one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and the Smith brothers just playing great as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you here. I think the Packers are gonna be able to get it done. Jared Goff obviously had that hand surgery, and last week he just didn't look like he was ready to be back at all. And everyone knows what happened to Wolford, got taken to the hospital and everything. Goff never should have been in that game in the first place, and he definitely just didn't need to be there anyways. So I mean, these teams are very comparable with rush yards and passing yards. They're both like right next to each other. I think it could come down who could run the ball better, but with just how hot they are and with how great their defense is playing, like you said, Jair Alexander, awesome player. I think the Packers are going to be able to get it done here.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue the trend and pick the Packers here. Looking at the Seahawks Rams game, the Seahawks were so clearly pretenders this year. They had so many problems. Russ was not cooking. He was a different player first half or second half of the year, and I think the Rams got by on that a little bit. Obviously, we had a Cam Akers sighting, which was kind of rare this season. If he plays like that versus the Packers, the Rams have a chance, but the Packers have been too good. Aaron Rodgers is looking to continue his MVP season. Devontae Adams is continuing to prove that he's the best receiver in the NFL right now. And I think the Packers will take care of business.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Packers here too. Go 4 for 4 for the Packers here with our predictions. But I think with the Packers historically and the Packers this season and last season under Matt LaFleur, the only way to beat them come playoff time is to have a really high octane offense that's gonna just outduel Aaron Rodgers and company. That's why he's lost 3 of his last 3 straight NFC championships. But I don't think that's the case here where the Rams are just gonna completely outscore the Packers in this game. Again, like John said, Jared Goff is a little bit shaking up. And more importantly, Aaron Donald is going to be going into this game 50, 60%. And I do think that's going to be the difference in this game. I think it will be a bit closer than we all think. But at the end of the day, I do think the Packers are going to get the win.
Yeah, I think Aaron Donald being out is going to be a major impact because Michael Brockers, Leonard Floyd, they all had career years just because Donald opens up on the defense. Sucks up 2 linemen. They're just able to go one-on-one, which is how they were so good on defense. So I think that's going to be a big impact here.
I do think Aaron Donald is going to play in this game, but nonetheless, he's going to be pretty shaking up playing this game. So if he can't consistently either draw double teams or win double teams like he always does, then I think this Rams defense is going to be in trouble. Though I do think Devontae Adams could be a bit neutralized by Jalen Ramsey here.
Yeah,
I agree that yeah.
uh,
Go ahead,
I
John.
was gonna say I'm really excited to see that matchup. The first and only time that they ever matched up those two was Jalen Ramsey's NFL debut. And Ramsey held Devontae Adams to 1 reception. And obviously that was like 4 years ago. Both have gotten significantly better. But I think that could be a huge part of the game. That could really dictate the outcome here.
Yeah, we all kind of just picked the Packers. I do think if the Rams win this game, it's because of their defense. Jared Goff doesn't have the arm and nor the health right now to, keep up with the Packers offense if they're firing on all cylinders. And so the defense has to play well. Like you said, Jalen Ramsey has to shut down Devontae Adams or limit him a little bit, kind of like how the Ravens limited Derrick Henry and were able to shut down their offense a little bit. So if they can do that, the Rams have a chance. If Akers, like I said, shows up, the Rams have a chance. But I don't like their odds going into this.
Yeah, I don't know why, but for me, Jalen Ramsey's one of the most disliked players in the league, but I love him. I just love how cocky he is, and I'm excited to watch that matchup with Devontae Adams. Moving on to the next games, we have the Ravens at the Bills. I'm really excited for this game. Unfortunately, my Colts lost to the Bills in a nail biter. Some rough decisions by Frank Reich during that game. But that being said, I'm going to go with the Ravens with this game. Lamar got the monkey off his back last week against the Titans. He threw for 100 yards. He ran for 100 yards, and he's playing the best football all year. Going back to his MVP, he hasn't really been that same level, but he is showing that now. And I think if they're able to get J.K. Dobbins more involved, Gus Edwards more involved, I think it's going to be a fun night for the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you here. I am picking the Ravens too. I know the Bills are the higher seed, but I think they will technically make the upset. Let's just look at their offenses real quick. The Ravens are the best rushing team in the entire NFL. Well, the Bills are top three in passing. But when you look at their defenses, the Bills are in the middle of the pack versus the pass. Well, I mean, versus the run. Well, the Ravens are pretty good. They're like top 10 against the pass. I mean, yeah, the pass. So I think defense is going to be a huge part of this game. They're going to be in Buffalo. It's going to be 30. It's going to be snowing. And they're just so hot right now. They're running the ball so mad. I think the Ravens are going to get out of here. A big part of it's going to be defense, but I just think they're going to run all over this Bills team.
I'm going to be the first one to pick the Bills here. This feels like the Bills' year. You know, Lamar had his year last year with his MVP season. Josh Allen's not going to win MVP this year, but he's having, an MVP season in a way for that team. The connection between Diggs and Allen has been incredible. It just feels like destiny, honestly. And here's the thing with the Titans. I feel like the Titans were pretenders. So I'm not looking at that game like, oh my God, the Ravens shut them down. Like the Browns showed when we played the Titans that if you shut down Derrick Henry, they're not that good. Like they're really not. And so, and no disrespect to Tannehill, he's a great quarterback, but I don't look at that game and be like, oh, the Ravens are so hot right now. Honestly, I don't think J.K. Dobbins looked that good in the Ravens game. Lamar Jackson had that awful throw. He did have the incredible run, but is that something that you're going to rely on, like a 50-yard quarterback run every week? I don't know. And that's something he's capable of, but that's tough. I think the Bills will get this done. I just think their offense is too powerful and that they've just been so clean and consistent all year.
Yeah, Jack, I think you made some great points. I am going to pick the Ravens, though, and I'm going to preface my prediction by saying if they go out there and look how they looked against the Titans, I think the Ravens are going to lose. They can't go down 10-0 early and expect their defense to hold the other team to score, 3 more points in the second half and to be able to win that football game. That's not going to happen. The Ravens are going to have to go out there and they're going to have to get a lead early to win this game. But I think the downfall of the Buffalo Bills was a little bit evident in the Colts game where their play calling concerned me. Having Josh Allen run I think 13 or 14 times with kind of power options, getting hit a lot. I think their refusal to incorporate their running backs into the running game is going to be their downfall here. I think they're going to go down a little bit early and just throw the ball the entire game. And I do think when this Ravens team could force the hand of the opponent towards one thing and one thing only, they do very good at that. Again, they were good at that with the Titans last week, and I think they're going to have success here this week.
I just think the Bills are something like they seem like scared in the playoffs. Last year they blew a lead. This year, the Colts should have won if Frank Reich really wasn't making some of the calls that they didn't go for it on that fourth down in the red zone. I mean, the Colts were in that the whole time, and not a lot of people thought the Colts were going to even be close to them because the Bills are so hot. So I think the Ravens just, if they're able to run the ball well, because the Bills have like the 20th ranked run defense in the NFL, so they're not really great at defending the run. So I think the Ravens kind of, if it might get a little ugly if the Ravens are able to neutralize the clock and really just pound the ball.
I really like what you said. They're not going to be able to win, the Ravens, if the Bills get out to that 10-0 lead early. The Ravens are going to have to go out and score, especially if they want to rely on the run. And like Jack said too, you can rely on the run, but you're not going to get a 50-yard scramble quarterback touchdown every week either. So you got to be able to pound the ball with your running backs, with Gus Edwards, with J.K. Dobbins. And, I mean, obviously the passing game isn't there. They're like the worst passing offense in the NFL. But on the other hand, their passing defense is really good. And the matchup that's going to be really exciting is Marlon Humphrey versus Stephon Diggs. And everyone knows how good Diggs has been this year. And Humphrey is still a really good corner, but his stats are starting to slide a bit. So that could really dictate how this game ends up, because if they're running the ball well, the Bills are going to be able to catch up with that quick passing game.
Yeah, I agree. Marlon Humphrey was just not a good matchup last week versus A.J. Brown. He was just got bodied every play. But I think Diggs actually matches up better. And Diggs has led the league in receiving yards. He's having an amazing year. But I think Marlon Humphrey matches up a little bit better with Diggs than he does against a guy like A.J. Brown. With that said, I think both these teams are beatable. This is really such a toss-up for me because it's just whoever kind of, is on that day. And so this is going to be a really close game. I think it's going to come down to the very end.
Yeah, I think this is probably my most anticipated game for this weekend. Moving on to our next game, we have the Browns at the Chiefs. The Browns just came off a huge win against the Steelers. I mean, they just destroyed them pretty much the whole game. Big Ben did throw for 500 yards, but it was more or less garbage time yards, in my opinion. But I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. They're just so good, in my opinion. Patrick Mahomes, all the weapons he has. The way the Browns could win this game is if they apply a lot of pressure on Mahomes. He does drop back considerably far, and if they're able to kind of drop back with him and make him scramble like he did against the Dolphins, where he had that huge loss for like that sack for like 30 yards. If they're able to create similar play like that, the Browns can stay with the Chiefs. But I'm gonna go with the Chiefs here.
Yeah, so we talked about it a little bit after the Browns game. Every time that I've been on your guys' show, I've predicted against the Browns in good fun, thinking the Browns would win, and they have. So again, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs here, hoping the Browns win. But I think the logical choice, anyways, is the Chiefs. Think about the Chiefs, like Sam said, Patrick Mahomes has not been great against pressure this year. And yes, there's no quarterback who's amazing against pressure. But you saw what the Dolphins did. If the Browns can kind of go with that game plan and put that pressure on Mahomes, then you can force him to make bad throws. You can force him to not take that time and let Tyreek Hill get 50 yards down the field so he can take those deep shots. If the Browns can apply that pressure, and someone who really, really needs to step up is Myles Garrett, because he hasn't had a huge impact in these past couple games. On the offensive side of the ball, if the Browns can run it, I mean, they just need to dominate the line. It all starts in the trenches. And you saw what they did last week versus Pittsburgh. If they can do that again versus the Chiefs, if you can ground and pound and get out to that lead, I mean, you're obviously not going to be satisfied, because this Chiefs team can score quick and fast. But if you can dictate the clock, you can take some 7-8 minute drives and score. You're keeping Patrick Mahomes off the field, and that's the best thing you can do. That's even better than what the defense could do. So if you can keep him off and score, that's more than what you could even ask for.
Yeah. Everybody and their mother thinks the Chiefs are going to win this game. And you know what? They're 15-1. I get it. But I'm picking the Browns. Call me biased. But here's the thing. The Chiefs have been beatable the last couple weeks. I understand those were the end of the season. They already were locked in the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. But Patrick Mahomes has thrown 4 of his 6 interceptions on the season in the last 3 weeks. They've not looked like the same just dominant, unbeatable Chiefs. And the Browns are playing really good football right now. They get Denzel Ward back. They get Stefanski, hopefully should be back. Right. So, like –
Joel Bitonio.
Exactly. Like, they get these big guys back. And Robert, like, okay, the Pittsburgh Steelers threw for 500 yards. Our secondary is dog water. Like, it makes complete – like, the Chiefs are going to slice us up. But at least we don't have Robert Jackson playing there getting burnt by Chase Claypool every single time. Like, it's not – like, I think Denzel Ward – if we can, like – it's going to be a shootout. But if we can limit them, I think this is going to be a really good game. And I think the Browns can absolutely win this game. Like John said, you guys have already really covered it. But winning in the trenches, establishing the run game, and just getting pressure on Mahomes, and there's a way that the Browns can win. Their chemistry is at a new level right now, and they want this more than any other team, I think, right now.
Yeah, I really like that Browns pick there. I am going to pick the Chiefs just because with the Chiefs, I'll see it when I believe it in terms of them losing in the playoffs. They've been really good the past 2 years in the playoffs. Of course, winning the Super Bowl last year, then AFC Championship the year before. But with the Browns, I really expect them to come out hot. If there's a bet I love this week, it's Browns first quarter money line. I know that's very random, but I do anticipate first play of the game, second play of the game, 70-yard Nick Chubb run or 30-yard Nick Chubb run. And I think the Chiefs, who all season offensively and defensively have come out very flat-footed and have kind of had this nonchalant attitude about them, not only with the play calls, but with kind of their tempo and just intensity in the football game. And the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and what makes them so great is that they could be going 50-60% all game, turn it on to 100 or 90 in the fourth quarter and win the game. But I think at some point we need to see the Chiefs go 100% all game. Hopefully for the Chiefs that's this game, because if not, again, I do think there's upset potential in this game. The Browns are an elite football team at running the football, controlling the tempo of the game, controlling time of possession. So if they can do that all game, like John said, like Jack said, keep the Chiefs off the field, I do think there's upset potential here.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with the Chiefs all year. I feel like they just know they're so good, and they kind of just get lazy a lot of the time. And Patrick Mahomes will just he won't just try to just drive it down the field. He'll just try to run around a little bit. But that's the opposite with the Browns. They're chomping at the bit to get on the field right now. I bet they love just destroying the Steelers, and then the Steelers continuing to talk after the game, which just makes no sense to me at all. But I think there's crazy upset potential here. The Browns really they're hot right now, and I think if they win this game, I think they'll go to the Super Bowl.
I mean, that's definitely a possibility. Yeah. And not to say the Chiefs don't even have a great passing defense too. The Browns aren't going to have to just totally rely on their run game. I mean, their secondary is fine, like Travarius Ford and L'Jarius Sneed, Rashad Breeland. But, I mean, they're not great corners. And you have Jarvis Landry you can go to. Hollywood Higgins has been great. Even Donovan Peoples-Jones. And, their linebackers, too, aren't great. And the Browns have some good tight ends. You have Daniel Sorensen lining up at a linebacker position for him. And, I mean, like Jack said, he's dog water. So if the Browns can really attack those guys in those positions, they'll be good. But one person on the Chiefs defense that you're going to have to look out for is Chris Jones. And it's huge this week that the Browns could be getting Joel Bitonio back because he's their right defensive tackle. And that's right where Joel Bitonio lines up. So, I mean, he's one of the best defensive tackles in the league, one of the highest paid, and it's for a reason because he's really, really elite. So if the Browns can get Bitonio back and neutralize that inside pressure, I think this offense is, going to do great.
Yeah, I love the stat that's out there that says Baker Mayfield's, in fact, the oldest quarterback left in the AFC playoffs, which is really interesting to me. But if Baker Mayfield could come out there with that confidence, like he played with the Steelers, again, with the Browns' key wins this season, I feel like he hasn't been asked to do too much, even if the stats at the end of the day look good for Baker Mayfield. If he kind of controls the game, takes what the defense gives him, and just under that Kevin Stefanski scheme that worked so great with Kirk Cousins, if he can just control the tempo of the game and, again, give what the defense gave him, I'm not trying to mold Baker Mayfield into a game manager because I do think he's more than that. I think he can be explosive, especially over the middle of the field with his passing game. But this is a very winnable game for Baker, and I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. And, again, contrary to what Chase Claypool says on live after the Steelers get destroyed, I do think the Browns are going to be in this one.
I think that game manager point that you brought up, I do honestly kind of think Baker has been a game manager this year, but I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think that's exactly what they've wanted Baker to be. He's thrown one interception since week 10 or something like that. He's been fantastic
320 passes.
Exactly, not turning the ball over. And he's allowed the run game and everything else to kind of, carry the team, but still being explosive and being able to throw the ball while doing that. Baker's been playing fantastic, and I don't think that there's a reason that the Browns should necessarily be completely overlooked in this game.
Yeah, I think it's very important that Baker comes out and plays a great game. He cannot turn the ball over. I think that would just – if you give the ball right back to the Chiefs, that's when things get ugly. But moving on to the next game, we have the Buccaneers at the Saints. This is the third time these teams will be playing. I'm going to go with the Saints. I know the Buccaneers are playing their best football the last couple of weeks, but last week against Washington, they didn't play all particularly that well, and the Saints have a better defense than I think Washington has. And looking at the other two games they played, the Saints beat them at a combined score of 72-26, so it hasn't really been close these past couple games. But that being said, Saints, I'm going with them.
I'm gonna go with the Bucks here, and I know they didn't play a great game last week versus Washington, but I also think Washington defense is like so underrated. That was a big reason why they were in that game last week, and obviously Taylor Heineke absolutely balled out on national TV, which is awesome to see too. But I just think that Brady is so experienced that just knows what to do at this point, and I think they'll pull through. I mean, I think it's Chris Godwin who's hurt, but Antonio Brown can step up. Gronk can step up. Mike Evans can step up. Or it's actually Mike Evans, so Godwin can step up. I just think that they'll be too good. I think that their run defense, the Bucks, is really good. Vita Vea has been awesome this year, and I think that their defense will ultimately win them this game.
This is such a tough game for me to choose. Like you guys brought up, the Saints have beat the Bucks twice this year, and both in pretty dominant fashion. Brady's PFF grade versus the Saints this year has been 69.5, and versus everyone else, he's been 93.9. So it's been a completely different player. The Saints have had the Buccaneers number this year. I want to pick the Bucks so bad, and I think I will pick the Bucks, but the stats really do not help me in this situation. But I think between playoff Brady and the fact that I do think the Bucks are actually playing really good football right now. They had that big lull in the middle of the season. And one of those games was when they lost to the Saints 38-3. But they're back on their grind. Marshawn Lattimore has been able to shut down Mike Evans every single time that he's faced Mike Evans throughout his whole career. Obviously, Mike Evans is injured, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of effect he has guarding another player, if he can do the same thing. I'll take the Bucks here, but take it with a grain of salt. I'm not super confident about that pick.
Yeah, I really wanted to pick the Bucks in this game too. I picked them to win their second matchup, and that disappointed me. And then last week, I stupidly picked against the Saints. Just because of that, I have to pick the Saints to win this game. I just think there's a bigger coaching disparity between Bruce Arians and Sean Payton than kind of the perception around those two, because Bruce Arians is regarded as a very good coach. And I think he is a very good coach. But coming from a Cardinals fan who every single time we would go to the playoffs with Bruce Arians, it would seem like he got very nervous out there. It would seem like he would start to panic, lose track of time of possession, lose track of timeouts. He just kind of has this panic ability to him. And I think they are going to overthink this like they did the first two matchups against the Saints this year. And I do think the Saints, just flat out from a coaching perspective, Sean Payton's ability to not have Drew Brees' weaknesses show up as much as they are there, because they are very real. And I thought Drew Brees in that offense was a little bit underwhelming against the Bears, even though they did get that victory. But again, I think this game is going to come down to coaching, and I think the Saints are going to win.
And also the fact that the Buccaneers have a very young team. Like they haven't been together that much, and Brady's kind of like the leader of this young team. And I think when you have someone like Cam Jordan barreling down on you at age 43 with a very inexperienced playoff team, it's going to be hard for them to, if they're down by 14 points, I think it's going to be hard for this team to come back.
Yeah, I mean, this game all right, you want to go? All right. I was just going to say
I'll let me go, because I'm going to piggyback off of Sam's point really quick, in that they do have a young team. But I will almost spin that around and say that I actually think that means that they might be getting better, because they had a lot of problems. Obviously, all these new guys, Tom Brady coming into a completely new system for the first time in his career, there were going to be struggles, right? It wasn't going to be like electricity from week one. And you saw that the struggles were evident this season, but they've really kind of picked it up. And I think they're starting to kind of figure it out and come together as one. That's the only thing I'm going to say about that. Again, maybe Sam is right. Maybe it'll show and expose them, or maybe it'll help them. I don't know, but that's my take on that.
I just think this is such a toss-up, especially because the Bucks, their strong suit is their passing game, but the Saints have been, top 5 as a defense against the passing game this year. So this one's so hard to compare. You have two of the greats going head to head. And like you said, it could also come down to a coaching disparity. Arians hasn't been traditionally great in the playoffs. Well, Sean Payton obviously knows what he's doing, but he also hasn't been great lately either. So, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think the Saints' kind of failures in the playoffs has been more an execution standpoint and a personnel standpoint rather than coaching. Whereas with Bruce Arians, I do think some of those Arizona Cardinals teams maybe I'm a little biased in that did have some talent to go farther than they did, especially not getting blown out 50-10 by the 15-1 Carolina Panthers in 2015. But again, I do think Tom Brady is a very chemistry-based quarterback for his entire career, not only with his receivers, but with his offensive line, getting a feel for where he's going to be in the pocket from a play-to-play standpoint. So I think it was very evident that Tom Brady in this offense was going to get better as the year progressed, which did end up happening. And I think the Buccaneers are playing their best football, which is very important. But I do think that Drew Brees' little break in the season was important for him, and I think they will muster out the win.
Yeah, I think having Kamara back and having Michael Thomas back, I think that's going to be really good for Drew Brees because he just spams those two throughout the whole game because he doesn't really have that big playability as he used to. So the key is for the Buccaneers is they need to stop those two. I think it's going to be a very close game. I'm excited for this one. Not too big of a fan of either teams particularly. The Saints beat the Colts in the Super Bowl, so that kind of – I hate them a lot, and I'm not a big Tom Brady fan. So I'm going to watch this with really no dog in the fight. Well, we hope you guys enjoy this episode. We had fun doing it. Stay tuned for our conference championship next week, but we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you guys for having us.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.